the holiday time of the year. So if you need in-law suites, we have 24 suites. 18 two-room suites and 6 studio suites. We make a great in-law suite. So if we can help you out during the cold times, the warm times, or any time, please keep us in mind and welcome again. Thank you so much.
Okay, our moderator is Brian Barkley, Senior Managing Partner of Barkley and Kennedy Chartered. Barkley and Kennedy is a general practice law firm that is listed in the Bar Register of Preeminent Law Firms, which places it in the top half of 1% of law firms in the U.S. Brian is listed in Who's Who in American Law and Super Lawyers. He chairs our Public Policy Committee and is former chair of the Rockville Chamber of Commerce. Brian? I do want to recognize some dignitaries in the room. Our brand new Rockville Council member, Barry Jackson. Did I see anyone else? Yesterday was a very exciting inauguration for the new mayor and council. We're so thrilled to have you. Okay, Brian. Oh, Mark Pershela, former council member Mark Pershela. Thank you for being here. Did I miss anything?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Is that the best you can do? Good morning, Rockville. And a shout out to Mark, who's always been a great friend of the chamber. And Barry is also my neighbor. I don't know, Ken, some of us might think this is a little too close for a mother-in-law suite. Oh, did I say mother-in-law? Never mind. So welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to be doing this again. I have said this before, but this is the dream team we have here of economic development. We're going to hear from about just about every possible sector and a lot of expertise on this panel. So we're going to have a good time today. So let me start by introducing our panel. Oh, by the way, you read that introduction exactly the way I told you to. Thank you. So, first, we have Kelly Schultz. Kelly, and I like the way you started your bio, by the way. Kelly is a mother, wife, successful small business owner, and served 7 years on Governor Hogan's administration as the Secretary of Labor and Secretary of Commerce. In a role as Secretary of Commerce, Kelly oversaw the state's primary economic development agency, responsible for attracting new businesses, job growth, and workforce development. Under her leadership, the department also served as the largest resource to provide financial assistance to struggling Maryland companies adversely impacted by COVID-19. She is currently the CEO of Maryland Tech Council, the largest technology and life science trade association in the state. Thank you for joining us, Kelly. Next, we have George Thomas. George is Vice President of Innovation and Strategic Initiatives at Connected DMV. George is a recognized industry expert at the intersection of technology and business. He has served the public sector and energy, sustainability, education, and transportation industries for over 20 years. George is a founding member of the Smarter Cities Council, serves on multiple NIST. I don't know say, do you shorten that some, or is it just ASCE and GCTC committees, and is a mentor, board member, and coach to several startups and innovative companies. He currently serves as Vice President of Innovation and Strategic Initiatives for Connected DMV, a nonprofit regional collaboration across Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. Its participants include local jurisdictions, federal agencies, industry, community, and academia, who work together to advance the region's top opportunities. He leads Connected DMV's work on the DMV Regional Economic Development Strategy. Next, everybody knows Cindy, good friend to the chamber. Cindy serves as the Chief Executive Officer of Rockville Economic Development, Inc., better known as READY, which identifies and develops economic opportunities to help Rockville prosper and lead us as a 21st century city for business. With her 20-plus year background in commercial real estate law and development, she leads READY in new and innovative ways to create economic growth attract and retain businesses, and highlight Rockville as a premier community for businesses, workers, visitors, and residents, which is exactly what it is. She has previously served as Deputy City Manager for Coral Springs, Florida, the Community and Economic Development Director for Modesto, California, and then she came to slightly colder climes here, and the Economic and Cultural Development Director for Coral Gables, Florida. She obtained her law degree from University of Connecticut School of Law, a Master of Fine Arts in Painting, which is her new avocation, from Towson University, and a Bachelor of Arts degree in Dramatic Art Studio from the University of North Carolina. George Thomas. George is a Vice President. Sorry, that's why I was supposed to put these underneath after I do that. See? Pay your instructions, Barkley. Bill Thomas. Bill is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, based in Rockville, Maryland. He leads a team of 25 diverse professionals who work to fulfill the mission of making Montgomery County one of the best, most diverse, and equitable places to do business in the country. He was previously Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer and has been with MCEDC since January of 2019. He has a deep background in marketing, business operations, strategic planning, and nonprofit management, with most of his career serving as a senior executive in the media and entertainment industries with Fortune 500 companies. From 2009 until 2018, he ran a consulting practice which advised companies on strategic business opportunities and brand transformation strategies. And I'll get this one right. Last but hardly least, our good friend Carla Merritt, Senior Business Development Representative for the Maryland Department of Commerce, representing businesses located in Montgomery County since October of 2016. Her role with the Maryland Department of Commerce allows her to engage with the business community, local economic development entities as partners on various projects such as new headquarters attraction, corporate expansions, and business retention. Commerce deploys many programs that meet the needs of businesses, such as workforce training programs, funding for improvements, and tax incentives involving from on-job creation to state and county. Ms. Merritt currently serves as a board member for Interfaith Works, another one of our good friends from Montgomery County, Ready, and a non-voting board member for MCEDC. Prior to starting at the Maryland Department of Commerce, she enjoyed a 20-year career in commercial real estate, focusing on asset management, leasing, brokerage, and development in the DMV. After a career of working for highly reputable real estate companies, she founded LeDroit Park Development Company and co-founded Noma Retail LLC and Noma Office Incubator LLC. So this is our dream team. So the way this is going to work this morning is I'm going to ask, I don't like to call them questions, I'll call them more like prompts. You've heard that before from me and other things, so nobody should feel pressured about, you got to answer the question. I'm not in court today, so you're not going to get cross-examined, you're lucky. So we're going to start with asking each of you, and we'll start at this end, to give us a brief overview. I gave a little bit about it, but more of an overview of what your organization does. So we'll start with Kelly.
This is gymnastics up here this morning. Well, good morning. It's great to be here. And thank you so much, Margie. It's good to see you. And happy Thanksgiving week to everyone. So the Maryland Tech Council is a 40-year-old program. It's an organization that started right here in Montgomery County. So hopefully everybody knows the origins. And over many years, the 40, there has been transitions that have happened along the way. Today, the Maryland Tech Council is the state affiliate for Big Bio, we call it, US Bio. So we represent all life science and bio organizations, as well as technology. So currently we have almost 750 business members representing over 150,000 employees in the state. Just a little bit of history, obviously, Montgomery County, you are well versed in what life sciences means to us, our economic growth and development. Technology is very strong in Montgomery County, but also in other parts of the state. But this is the hub for life science biotech. And we think at the Maryland Tech Council that we can only get bigger. This year, we were really excited that Maryland was announced to be the third largest cluster for biotech in the nation. 4, 5, 6 years ago, we said by 2023, we were going to do that in Maryland. And thank you all very much. We got there in 2023, but we think that it can get bigger. And part of my role at the Tech Council is to make sure that we talk to everybody outside of the state to tell everyone how great we are in Maryland so that we can continue to attract more for our life science and technology ecosystems here. And that's going to be part of our mission. So thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is George Thomas. Thank you for the kind introduction. I'm part of a 501c3 called Connected DMV. And the reason we exist is, if you look at us as a region, Greater Washington, we have about 6.5 million people. We have an economy of roughly 580 to 590 billion, depending on how you count it, which if you put us on the world stage as a single entity would make us somewhere in the 25th, 29th largest country in the world. But because we are fragmented between 2 states and the district, and about 25% of our economy is driven by the US federal government, we have historically underperformed on any number of metrics and batting at at where we should be batting. And there's been many attempts to try to figure out why, and fragmentation is one that comes to the fore a lot. But that fragmentation is not just jurisdictional fragmentation, it's industry fragmentation, it's lack of focus on who we want to be, it's lack of focus from our political leadership in some ways, because we are 3 plus 1 with the feds compared to our competition, which take Chicago, New York, Atlanta, Silicon Valley. They combine much more effectively because of the lack of fragmentation there is. So because of this, we spent a lot of time talking to ourselves, fighting among ourselves, and the big opportunities fly by. So a big portion of why we got stood up was, how do we not fight about the things that are currently on the table, which we have to do anyway, and that's okay. But how do we look 5-10 years ahead and try to figure out what the big pillars are going to be? How do we identify the next piece in bio, the next data centers, the next cyber, the next X, and come together as a collective before there is a need for a fight and increase the size of the pie? Because we strongly feel that our basic competition is other regions and the London, Singapore's, Tel Aviv's of the world. That's where the big plays are going, and how do we capture that? So Connected DMV was established formally the week before COVID-19 shut us down. But we had an idea a couple of years prior to that. So about 5 years roughly is when it's been there. So we are a public, private, academic conglomerate. So all of the work that we do tends to be focused on building industry pillars with equity in mind. Because whenever something new comes along, we strain the equity tendrils that we have as a collective. It tends to go to where there is already things. So how do we kind of keep in mind that that is always an issue whenever something new comes along? But how do we increase the size of the pie? How do we compete more effectively? This kind of our mission statement. So thank you for having me. I think it's my second year being part of this panel, and looking forward to sharing some of the stuff that we see as a collective, as a regional collective on what we're doing. Thank you.
Gymnastics.
Hi, I'm Cindy. So Rockville Economic Development is a local level economic development agency, and there aren't a lot of them in Maryland. Mostly they're at the county level, like Bill is. So I think that really distinguishes Rockville and what it's able to do to position itself, which is exciting. I think the city 26 years ago decided to have a vision where they took the Department of Economic Development, spun it off as its own nonprofit. The board of directors are community business leaders who are helping to vision what the business community should be here, a lot like the chamber does, although it is a public entity, so we don't have a membership base. Since I've been leading Rockville Economic Development for 5 years now, we've focused a lot on what George and Kelly have been talking about, the life science, bioscience sector, but we've also really leaned into some more local needs there was not a local tourism website when we got here, and people who were moving here, or, you know, companies or employees for businesses, they didn't know what there was to do or see here. So we've really worked on that messaging, and Amanda over there, the person who leads all of our marketing and explorerockville.org, and has some information about that. So I know we have a couple realtors in the audience today, so please see Amanda to get some of the materials on that. It's a really good thing to give people who are looking at buying houses here. You know, so we also think that arts and culture, and given my background, I think this too, are integral to this innovative, creative economy that we have in Maryland. And so we want to keep promoting that. We want to keep giving the opportunity for people to use both sides of their brain, so that they can keep being innovative in all sectors. But obviously, bio and life sciences is an area where we have incredible inventors here and innovators. And with that, I will turn it over to Bill. I'm sure we have a lot more we'll talk about as we go along.
And let me just tell people, there's also some promotional and other information on the registration table from Ready, so you can get more information.
Good morning, I'm Bill. I'm basically just a different version of what Cindy does, except I don't have the arts background. But I'm on a theater board. I'm now on the Wheaton Arts Entertainment Advisory Council. By the way, if you have not seen Cindy's art, if you're on a Zoom call, you'll see her art in the background. She's had an exhibit at the Mansion in Rockville. Forget about economic development. You should go buy her art. I happen to like it. I mean, it's my style. I'm not going to talk a lot about what we do, except to emphasize a couple of things. We were spun off from the county in 2015, but all the components of economic development were not given to us. So we had an interesting board meeting last week. Where is it? Why aren't we doing this? And why hasn't this happened? And a lot of those things are not our direct responsibility. But given that I am the CEO for economic development, I will take responsibility for making sure that we as a county take a more holistic approach to economic development, whether it's at the county level, the state level, the regional level. And my biggest challenge is making sure that I remember the borders of Rockville, because when I go, oh, we're working on this, and Cindy goes, no, that's not in the city of Rockville. I go, but we're here to talk about what we can do to drive the economy in better ways. The economy of the state has not grown at the pace that it has in other parts of the country. There are reasons for that: aging population, challenges with the political process. The workforce has not come back to pre-pandemic levels, and the list goes on and on and on. Yet we have a talent pipeline shortage, lots of things that we have to work on. But I also want to remind everybody that we have the fundamentals. As the governor has said many times, we have the assets, but no strategy. And so George sort of talked about that. You know, how do we coordinate and pull our resources together to make something happen? I'll stop there because I think the Q&A will be much more interesting.
My name is Carla. Good morning, everybody. So I am at the state level, and these are generally my partners, Ready, Montgomery County, DC, and the city of Gaithersburg. And we team together to actually bring companies to Maryland, whatever location that may be. We have a group of people that go out and are selectors that go out and help people decide to come to Maryland. They answer the RFPs. They show them the locations that they can come and land in. We also have tax incentives that help companies along with whenever they're hiring employees. It gives them some credits. We have the bio-tax credit, which helps bio industries. I mean, we have a lot of strategies to deploy, whether that's the child care tax, the child care grant fund that we have now that's going. And we also have the Build Our Future Fund, where I think Governor Moore has given us some tools to launch some great projects. And I think in the future, you're going to see a lot less companies coming to Maryland, but there's a contraction going. And what's going to happen is they're going to build from within. They're buying other companies and they're growing. So that's the way I think we're gonna be seeing business go for the next couple of years due to interest rates, due to a lot of other things. And I'm interested in the connected DMV because you're right, George, whenever we had our first panel and the last one prior to COVID, you do see that we need to have more connected DMV and learn how to do things together to use each other's resources. So I'll leave it right there.
So leave the microphone there so we don't have to play Twister with it. We'll start with you again, if you take a breath. And you've touched on this a little bit already. So the next prompt is, how do you all work together? So you touched on that a little bit. Can you amplify on that just a little bit and then we'll pass it down?
Well, just for an example, say a company comes to us and says they want to expand and they have a site selected. They're already, that expansion means they're already in the county. We'll gather the teams that are in the locality, which might be Montgomery County EDC, or it might be Ready or Gaithersburg. And we'll get on a call, or we'll go and meet them and discuss how many, employees they're gonna have, what the CapEx is, what their needs are, and try to give them a list, so to speak, to start with. And we help them get through that process. The county has a form that they fill out to see the need and to see if it's there. And we'll help them on anything from connecting them to other businesses. We'll help them to connect to partners that they may need for a supply chain. I find myself doing that more than anything else, is connecting businesses to other businesses to fill their gaps. And I'm perfectly fine with doing that because we don't need to create another business, just give the other businesses no business. All right? Is that enough?
Yes, pass it on down.
Okay, we are so interconnected. I also sit on Ready's board. Kelly, running the Maryland Tech Council, has stolen part of my staff. Our
But I'm not paying a bill, you.
That's our senior VP of Business Development is chair of the Maryland Tech Council. I am on one of the advisory committees for the Connected DMV. So we are taking this local approach, regional approach to everything we do, because if the region wins, we all win. You read, we all cheered the Prince George's County getting the FBI headquarters. That is good for the state of Maryland. When something happens in Rockville, that is good for the county and very good for the state. Kelly will probably talk about this, but you had your bio conference, what, Monday, two weeks ago?
October something.
700 and some people registered, and we were all engaged in that. So it is an integrated effort, especially at the county and city level, because what we do every day impacts each other, except when the county passes certain legislation and then the city says, well, we didn't do that. There was a lot of legislation that went through the county this summer that was very challenging for businesses, but Rockville did not pass the same type of legislation. So we do have that little back and forth, but it's hard for the business community to tell sometimes. So that's when we go, there are exceptions, but more importantly, let's work together, because things will go back and forth. There are companies coming into Rockville all the time. Unfortunately, some going out, but they're not leaving Montgomery County.
Yeah, there we go. So I am not a gymnast. I'll give an example of a project that we're working on that I think is very exciting. So in the spring, Ready was, because we're little and mighty, we were able to hire a good marketing firm called Medium Giant out of Texas to take a look at the life science, bioscience sector. And, Montgomery County hasn't really been able to come up with a sticky way to talk about what is the brand of that sector here. So this company has been meeting with various focus groups from all of these entities and leaders in bio life sciences to say, why are people coming here? What do people internationally think about this area? Why don't they know that there's bio and life science here? Why do they only think of Boston? So they've been gathering all that information. They've started their creative process, and they're going to be coming back to a stakeholder group to start to test some of the messaging. So I think, you know, this is something that if we can come up with something that we all think represents us and we can use, it will help us identify this as a location and do what Kelly is saying and move us up. Whether we kick out California or Boston, we don't know yet, but but I do have to say, you know, and I'm sure Kelly will talk about this, the Maryland Tech Council just bought some amazing curriculum that to train people in life and bioscience that is another one of the gaps we had in this area. It's the key thing is workforce. So I'm not going to steal all that thunder, but really exciting things going on that we're all doing that integrate with each other.
You wanna follow up and then I'll take it over?
You can go ahead.
All right, sounds good, thank you. Yeah, I think all very kind of valid points on what we are trying to do as a collective to do. So from a connectivity point, exactly as you said, Kelly sits on the DMV Regional Congress, Bill sits on the REDS effort. We work very closely across every type of organization, across the collective, public and private, planning departments, economic development departments, some elected officials, sit on a couple of our steering committees, all with this kind of larger mission of how do we increase the size of the pie. I'll give one example of that is about 18 months of work, including a collective of pretty much all of the major EDO folks across the region have been working on, which got finally announced September of this year, on a unified brand for economic development for the region. Similar to what Cindy said, it's been marketing people, development people, planning people coming up with how do we attract companies, how do we convince people to move here, what is truly unique about us that we don't talk about as much. We are generally known to the layperson as a government town, but there is so much more to that and the types of businesses that come here. So this brand that got created is called Greater Washington, and the tagline is build here. And the word build can be replicated by any number of things, innovate, finance, et cetera, depending on what the need is. And that committee is actually meeting this afternoon again, which with expanded participation from Howard and Anne Arundel and Frederick counties, their CEOs all coming in to try to figure out how do they then get attached to the brand itself. And there's a central website that's been created called onedmv.org. So if you just go to it, it'll take you to the central starter website. There's a lot planned by that team to kind of dive deeper, which then gives you the overall picture of the region, but also then you can dig into every county and every city within the region that has an economic development function for specific marketing messages underneath it. So that's one example of the types of things that as a collective we are doing to make everybody look better. And one of the philosophies behind it is to speak with one voice. Typically, when grant applications come out, federal money comes out, philanthropy money comes out, we struggle as a collective to say what we have as assets in the region and how we can work together. This is intended to kind of help with that in trying to provide single source of truth for things that we want to say as we kind of move forward together as a region to compete.
Thanks, George. Obviously, we're all friends. We do lots of great things together, and for the sake of what we all commonly say is the ecosystem, right? So whether we're working at the state level, the county level, the regional level, or the very local level, we all have one common theme that we're all working towards, and that's the growth and expansion of the ecosystem. And so when we talk about that, we talk about the industries that are actually involved with the ecosystem, but we also talk about those ancillary businesses that are providing support to those businesses as part of the ecosystem. So the lawyers, the financiers, the builders, you know, whoever it is that has a part in what we do, but also local and state level governments, right? Because we all have to work together on policy issues as well, and also academia. So when we talk about building the entire ecosystem, it's not just those that are doing the nitty-gritty work in the labs or in the science centers or providing cybersecurity relief. It's about everybody that's involved with that. And so I think that's what we do really well. What we also do really well is understanding where we have some deficits in the ecosystem and trying to improve that with the assets that we have and the resources that we have, but also going out to find additional resources. So briefly, what we had discussed with one of the deficits we have is our workforce, particularly as it relates to biopharmaceutical manufacturing. Right. So we have seen those pop up between Montgomery County and Frederick County, and some spattered in Baltimore as well. But this is the heart of it. And how are we going to be able to keep up with the necessity of that entry level worker at the pharmaceutical manufacturing sites that continue to grow and more are coming? So the Maryland Tech Council has developed a system or a program called BioHub Maryland, which is actively working with all of these partners and beyond to provide academic support and on-site training for entry-level folks to go into biopharmaceutical manufacturing. We did acquire curriculum from an organization in Ireland, which is the world-renowned global standard for the training. So we now do have that curriculum, and we're working with Montgomery County to get a facility in Montgomery County in order to probably not too far from where we're sitting right now, so that we can house an ongoing training facility. We're working with the state, we're working with the feds, we're working with the local government to provide that opportunity. Because once we get folks into the industry at that entry level part of the industry, then we know that we can upskill them into different parts of the industry, which is obviously a need as well. So we're really excited about that. But there is not one of us that can do our jobs without any other of the people that are here. And quite honestly, everybody that's in the audience as well. And the Maryland Tech Council works very closely with all of the chambers at the state and the local level. We are the only non-chamber member of the Maryland Chamber Federation. We call ourselves the Federales. But it's to be able to connect all the different parts of specific industries together. And I'm pleased that it works so closely and united. As such, the Department of Commerce a couple of weeks ago reached out to the Maryland Tech Council and said, hey, we have a big project that's coming in, a prospect answering those RFPs. Can the Tech Council come in and give your perspective so that these folks know that there really is a foundational ecosystem with all of the resources that our businesses that are here currently have? So that's the part of the role that we play in that type of attraction for economic development.
Thank you, Kelly. So excuse me if I look at my phone, I'm not texting. My watch stops, so I'm channeling my millennial children and using this to tell what time it is. And they've been trying to get me to do that for years anyway, so I'll do it this morning at least. So now a little more Rockville centric, not that you haven't been, but this is the Rockville Chamber of Commerce. So I'd like to ask you, hone in a little bit on how do you promote Rockville for business expansion, as well as the county, obviously, which we're also very interested in. You want to?
Well, I'll just, because it's here, we'll just go back down. And I know that the real experts on Rockville are coming, but this is what we do know. And, you know, we talked, Cindy, about a little bit of the outreach program and the research that you're doing to attract and to kind of get the feel of what Rockville is. I know what the feel of Rockville is. I don't live in Rockville. I live in Frederick. But I know what it is, and there's a lot of talent and there's a lot of experience that's here in Rockville, but there's also a little bit of that hometown feel, which I'm feeling today in the chamber. So for us, although we are a statewide organization, a vast majority of our members really are located in Montgomery County and Rockville area because of what you guys do really, really well. And we spend a lot of time here wanting to be able to promote that. And so I'm glad to be a partner of everything that you guys are trying to do.
Thank you, Kelly. Very same here. The only personal touch I will add is Connected DMV's office is in Rockville. So that always helps. And one of the other things that we do is, because we are focused on industries that are coming downstream, we do a lot of work in bio from a future tech perspective. And we were lucky last year to get a grant from the Department of Commerce to set up the nation's first biotech life sciences and healthcare, quantum innovation hub and the structure of what that looks like. And that's work is being done out of the Rockville office with that. And we have partners from well outside the region and outside the country who are serious partners in this, including folks like Cleveland Clinic and GSK out of it, who are well kind of working with it. So part of what we see, and I'll finish with this, is because we are fragmented, there is a huge advantage in laws, policies, local structures that we offer that very few regions in the country can offer, which tend to be city, county, state. You have to follow the rules. That allows us a flexibility which we should take advantage of, because everything that we can take advantage of, we should as a region. So that's my little bit of background.
I did yoga yesterday.
So obviously I spend all day, every day thinking about Rockville. Let me talk about two other sectors that I think are very important to us, just so that they're highlighted. One is the importance of entrepreneurs, and that's nationwide, it is statewide. Fastest growing sector of entrepreneurs are Black women. And so we run the Maryland Women's Business Center, which it's sort of an interesting thing for me, and because I'm Rockville focused for economic development services, but the technical assistance to women entrepreneurs and any other entrepreneurs, we serve all genders, really is in Frederick, Montgomery, Prince George's, and Howard County. So while I do get a hyper focus on Rockville, I also have a very regional focus. And we spend a lot of time thinking about how can we leverage relationships in these other locations and build a greater opportunity for entrepreneurs. So I think that also plugs Rockville into sort of a larger vision. And if you need any free one-on-one business counseling, or if you want to attend any of our workshops, please take a look at marylandwbc.org. We've got two main locations at the Rockville office, and then also one at Bowie State. The other thing that I think is really exciting that we're working on is the East Goody area, which we have branded Rock East, which is also kind of cool. We have hired a company to come in and help us look at the small scale manufacturing that's happening here, so that we can position this as the area in the Montgomery County and the region to come and scale your small scale manufacturing business. And manufacturing can be anything from, Mas Panadas, the empanada factory, to Mayorga, to, a pharma. I'm not a science person, creating the biologics or something like that. But, and then we've got a lot of car repair, we've got a lot of home repair. It's a really cool, eclectic place. We don't want to gentrify it or try to make it something it's not. What we want to do is make it a place where the businesses know they can come and grow and flourish. So that's, we're not all bio life science. We are focusing on a lot of the unique traits that Rockville has, but it is a very wonderful community that has a lot of good workforce, a lot of industry sectors. We're, diversified industry sectors. So we're a very strong community as far as business community goes. The other thing I would like to point out is that one of the benefits to residents is that because of the commercial tax base, about half of the taxes are paid by businesses. And that is very important to the residents. So.
Officially, we are location neutral, but by default, Rockville comes to the top. I mean, when you look at life sciences, technology, entrepreneurship, we are constantly promoting that. We had our board meeting at Adventist Hospital last week, when the Secretary of Commerce came to the county. A third of the stops were in Rockville. We had 6 or 7 stops. We highlighted Rockville businesses. So it's nonstop. The International Soft Landing Incubator for the county and the county seat is in Rockville. So trust me, you are covered between the 4 or 5 of us. And I think if there are other things that you think we should be highlighting or that we're missing, please let us know. I don't think we miss much of anything in terms of what's going on in Rockville. You've got a brand new mayor who is really dynamic and has long before she became mayor, pushing for the success of the city, not to mention the former mayor and former council members. So from my point of view, you are in great shape, but you also, as goes the state, so goes the city. And so we have the ups and we have the downs. But I really feel that you're in good shape in terms of taking advantage of the assets that are here and working collectively to do more of what we can, whether it's working with WMATA, whether it's trying to get those cables and electric lines buried on 355.
So expensive.
And I know, but we're trying, working together. So more interested in your questions and comments or suggestions as to what we can do better.
Rockville, the little city that can. Speaking about the East Good area, I think what's very interesting about what you're trying to do there is the fact that there's a lot of leases that are coming up, right? And you have a lot of opportunity to recreate something besides, I think, like the teachers' education buildings over there and a lot of nonprofits. It's a chance to assemble some buildings that are capable for putting some manufacturing there. What Cindy was trying to relay is like viral vectors or things like that can be created. It's actually a national security issue that we don't have small manufacturing. And if every state at least could have one, maybe the next time there's a pandemic, we'll be a little bit more prepared, okay, or whatever is coming. So I think that this idea of putting together small manufacturing in that area is just perfect. So I'll leave it at that.
Great. Bill, you're right. Rockville does rise to the top. Thanks for saying that. I want to allow a little time for questions. So let me just combine a couple of these prompts and talk about whatever comes to your mind that relates to these. So the next couple I have are what's in the project pipeline that you're aware of, and or what programs and initiatives are each of you currently working on. So back to you.
Well, what's in the pipeline? Mostly what I talked about with the GMP manufacturing. What I like about where I work is that I do have some autonomy to really go after the things that I am, particularly interested in, and that's workforce and making sure that we get a diverse population of people into this field. It's a field that mothers could do because the hours are reliable, it's good pay. Do you know that women happen to be very desired in this field because we are more detailed? I learned that the other day. And so I think that, women, minorities, we want to try to, I guess, link up with the school system. And I think that started now. Getting them involved with learning about these positions, either through, teachers coming and learning about it, counselors coming and learning about it, students coming and learning about it, or we go to them and learning about these fields so that they know that they're out there. They only started like 5 years ago, so we have a lot to catch up on, getting these young people into these jobs, training them, and just getting them through the program so that we can have a new pipeline of talent. What happens right now is all of the companies that do manufacturing kind of share employees. They might work in one place in the day, work another place in the night, or they just leave one place and go to another. And so basically it's like a mill, the same people going through. So we need to correct that.
Most of the projects in the pipeline are confidential, so you heard Kelly talk about one. I think I know which one she was referring to, but it impacts the city of Rockville in a big way. Well-known international company, and so there are big ones and small ones that are happening every day. In addition to the talent pipeline, we've been asked by informally by the county council to look at what we can do concerning office vacancies. It's up around 19 or 20% right now. Big issue for the entire country. And But that's something that we are trying to address more specifically on a local level. We are constantly engaged in what's happening at Rockville Town Center. You know that very shortly, like in a few weeks, Choice Hotels will be moving down the street still in Montgomery County. But what do you do with the facility, the real estate that is there? That's an integrated effort in terms of trying to look at solutions. I'll stop there.
I know, I guess that's the bad thing about one of those questions is the best stuff we can't talk about. But I would say that sticking with the importance of partnering with academia, we are having a lot of conversations with both Montgomery College and USG about how we can better partner. So with Montgomery College, we've been working with their business department to find ways for the students to have experiential learning. So we have paired some student teams with businesses that we work with that have a problem to solve, and they might have more than one student team working on that. And they'll be able to select a solution if they'd like to, but it gives the students some hands-on experience. And then USG has gone through this process of realigning their board and their staff for a new strategic plan, which you can see online, which really looks at how to map the pathways for different industry sectors. And so we are trying to figure out how we can partner with them also to amplify that work and also drive workforce into the companies that are here, so that we really match the need of what student talent is being graduated with what do the companies actually need. So, you know, we're very, again, lucky that we have such wonderful academic partners right on our, in our borders and on our borders. So, and I will just say for Choice Hotel, they are still with a Rockville address. If they're not in the line, but I think that they're not moving out of our market enough that we're going to feel any economic impact from that. So I do want to put that out.
There's also, in terms of talent, what we're trying to do is to make Montgomery College part of the community. Much more so, you have a couple of board members from Montgomery College on Ready's board. And now there is a concerted effort to figure out what do you do to make the students feel that they are part of the city of Rockville in ways, whether it's through transportation, where they live. And so I think that's going to go a long way, because a lot of the talent, unfortunately, is going, whether it's to the University of Maryland or Montgomery College, and then they're going someplace else. And so to the degree that we can keep that talent engaged here, I think while that's a small effort, there's a lot going on behind the scenes.
That's a really good point. The opportunity to keep those folks as community members is something that is a shared goal. And I know that there's also, as you're thinking about it, a desire to get students to understand what a local government means and how do you get involved and how can you be on a committee and how can you give back to your community.
This one got complicated. Yeah, I'll stay with the workforce theme. Everybody is correct in the fact that the workforce of the future is not necessarily just like go to a four-year university, get into a tech job, go into IT. That structure is changing because the types of jobs that are coming up are changing so often. And you have to get retrained. This concept of lifelong learning is becoming more and more a prominent, necessary way. We have to think about how we do our workforce and what that looks like. So as Connected DMV, from our perspective, as we've been looking at industries of the future and what that looks like, we have intentionally not just looked at new blood coming into the workforce and how do we train them and what the paths are. We've also been looking at the other end of the spectrum and what we call executive education, which is somebody who is in an adjacent university. How do we kind of upskill and reskill is too strong a word. It is just, you know, we need fractional experience updates to kind of be able to get into new worlds. So for example, folks with data science skills or AI skills can easily step into quantum computing. Folks with, you know, there's lots of examples like that on where we can do. So a big part of our focus has been trying to identify what some of those things are and then try to get folks aligned to try to go after it. I'll give one very quick example is we are working with a university in Australia who have developed curriculum around specifically this for quantum executive education. And we're trying to import that, so they got a massive grant from the federal government in Australia to create the program. And we are coming to an understanding with them, similar to what Kelly said, to be able to have access to the curriculum and then work with the universities here to create educators who can then, we can give it into the life sciences community, into the defense community, into the energy community. So that's one of the things that we are looking at from a workforce perspective. The other part of that is anything that is a up and coming new industry, there's going to be very few experts in it for a long time. 200 to 1,000 people in anything you name. So you can't develop and retain them easily. It's very, very difficult to do because they are very in demand. They go to wherever the best opportunities lie. It could be money, it could be access to assets, it could be research capabilities, it could be ways to set up companies. So part of the discussion on that front also is we've been working collaboratively with other regions. So we signed something, I'll stick with quantum, in quantum called the Quantum Accord with a similar group as our like Greater Washington in Amsterdam, in Australia and in Ontario, Canada, for us to kind of think about specifically sector skills in this area and see if there are ways we can do rotation-based instead of just losing people left and right in certain skill sets. So the whole world is starting to rethink workforce as a rotation, as somewhat transitionally, but retaining and getting benefits for all as these industries develop. So.
Thanks, George. So unlike my previous roles, when I was at the state, either with labor or with commerce, I can be so zeroed in and so specific on the industries that I think are really important, right? So when I was at commerce, you felt like you couldn't give preferential treatment to any county, any industry, anything, because you had to be clear across the board. That's what economic development is, right? And so that's what we represent. I can be super focused on the industries that I'll say right now are going to be able to lead Maryland into a new economic growth pattern. Absolutely right, Bill. Maryland has not grown as much as other parts of the country. We rest on our laurels. We understand that we have constant jobs. We live in the district where federal government employees are there. It's a constant. They're going to keep, approving the budget, whether it's through a CR or whatever other crap they do down in Congress. But we have those jobs, right? And so when really bad economy hits, the good thing is that Maryland doesn't really get hit as badly as some of the other areas. But also Maryland doesn't grow as much as some of the other areas because we don't have to try as hard. Honestly, that's kind of the truth, right? So in my current role, I can say to all of my partners in economic development, to the new administration, the Moore administration, which has been fabulous to the industries that I represent, and to the legislators that are really interested in economic growth, say, listen, I get it. We want to give all of those other industries equal time. But let me tell you, the place where we have the greatest opportunity for economic growth and expansion is in biohealth, life sciences, and technology. It's just a fact. So if we can just pull kind of our resources together and say, we want to be intentional, whether we call that a strategic plan that the new governor wants to put forward, or just intentionality of each and every one of you, I promise you that if we are intentional about that growth and what we can do to be able to sustain, retain, and grow these industries, Maryland has no other place to go but up when it comes to across the country and really across the globe, because we have the foundation. Now we have to push to make sure that it gets even better, because that is the growth area that we will all be able to. And it's not just those that are working in the industry. I don't do tech either. I don't know, right? But it's the ancillary, right? It's the communities, it's the Rockvilles of the state that are going to be able to benefit in each and every one of the industries that is internal or external to the specific industry. And I think we have a great way to move forward. Are there exciting stuff coming up? Yeah, there's some big deals that are happening out there that Everybody signed the same NDA, I'm assuming, so we can't really talk. But there's big things that are happening. We have to make sure as community and as people that are interested in our economic growth, not only for those businesses, but because they do bring in tax dollars for our community, so we can make our schools bigger and better. And we can focus on the community. We can focus on lower income housing, affordable housing, because the biggest detriment that the state of Maryland has to retaining entrepreneurs is because it costs twice as much to be here than it does in Austin, Texas. Right? So we want to retain and we want to be able to have the tax structure, the revenues that are coming in so that we really can focus on the larger ecosystem, because that's what some of the other parts of the country are doing right now as they're just starting to build up their industries. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll remind my son, who's currently in Austin, Texas. of what you
Yeah.
just-
Cheaper, much cheaper in Austin, Texas.
Yes, indeed. So we only have a couple minutes left. I want to respect your time and this wonderful panel. Do we have a question somewhere? Right here.
So I want to thank everyone for a fascinating panel. And this was touched on tangentially by a number of panelists. We are very blessed to live in one of the most diverse areas in the country. How do we leverage that diversity as a driver of economic growth and a differentiator from other areas of economic development to attract and grow the economy in this area?
I'll give you an example from earlier this month. The county executive took a delegation to India and Vietnam. I did the India piece. I was not going to spend 17 days away. And the opportunity we had, there are 115 languages spoken in the school system in Montgomery County. The Indian business population here is very strong, over 25,000 plus residents. And we were able to take 20 businesses over there who want to expand. And if they expand and do well there, then the tax base here grows. But also to bring businesses back from India to come here. And one of the selling points is that when people transition to a new culture, we're welcoming. Whether it's the school system, whether it's neighborhoods, you don't have to overcome that barrier. So we have a built-in competitive advantage, and that's just one small example.
Great. Maybe one more?
Some of you touched on this earlier too. What do you do or can you do as nonprofits? I know you have limitations with respect to educating some of the legislators, and I think more of Montgomery County and the state, in terms of the burdens that they put on businesses. I'm an employment lawyer, so I'm talking a lot about the employment, a lot of laws that come on businesses.
I can meet you.
You really want to take that one?
It's called a lot of time and effort and collaboration. And I mean, I was with council member Mink last night. I spent a lot of, let me put it this way. It's a lot of one-on-one, and it's a lot of educating before something happens. The problem with legislators is that they are introducing legislation. You don't know that it's coming down the pike. So once it gets into the public persona, you're stuck. So you've got to bring them in ahead of time. The business community, in my opinion, does not do a great job of courting public officials when they should, and building those relationships far in advance. And that's one of the most important things that I think we can do, is to encourage businesses in a collaborative way to work with legislators off-season, outside of the different chambers around specific issues tied to data. You're still going to have the challenges you had, but that's what we saw this summer with some of the legislation that was passed, is that there was no effort, no concerted effort by the business community to have an impact, such as some other trade organizations or nonprofits, one of which has been in the news quite a bit lately. And so I think that's the single biggest thing you can do at every level, whether it's the city of Rockville, the county, but also the state. Because a lot of what we do, Carla, the state has an impact on us in terms of taxes, whether it's energy related, whether it's environmental. There are lots of things that go on, even at the state level, that we don't pay enough attention to.
Can I bring one?
Sure.
This isn't related to what Bill was saying, but no one's mentioned traffic. Not an issue with you all? No? Okay, well. 270, we have a forum that's been going on since November. The last one, I just want to make sure that everybody knows. The last one's at Thomas Wooten High School, Saturday, December the 2nd, for you to put your input in to what's going on, because I think that's really one of the major barriers that we have right now. There is a lot of commuting that goes back and forth from Maryland to Virginia, right? And there's I see them doing things on the Virginia side. I don't see anybody doing anything on the Maryland side. We've got to get going on that because it's going to be painful. So that's another issue that I think that we just really need to push our legislation on to get it done.
Thank you.
When is that again?
That is December the 2nd at Thomas Wooten High School in their cafeteria, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. It is the last one. And it's the message that should have been out there, but I'm trying to make sure I bring it to everybody.
I'm just gonna use my outside voice so that we don't have to pass their microphone. But I just want to thank the local elected officials that are here today, right? And so the time to advocate with your elected officials is not when something gets introduced. It's a constant continuing relationship that you need to have. And, at the Maryland Tech Council, we started last November advocating for this coming session, right? So bringing legislators and policymakers into the fold to get them the understanding of what your issues are well ahead of them having to make a decision is really critical, right? So thank you to those that are here. And I know that there's many other great ones that are in the neighborhood as well.
Kelly, as usual, you're way ahead of me. That is exactly what I was gonna say.
I read your notes.
From over there. So I had the public policy committee for the chamber, and I hear all the time from people, whether it's in Rockville or whether it's the county, we only show up to complain at the last minute about a bill. So you have to be engaged on a regular basis. Your particular business is affected by laws. If you join my committee or communicate with me, I can tell you what's coming up. These folks happy to do the same. Get involved in the process early, because when you show up, when the vote's there, it's way too late for that. And the chamber does everything it can, but I've heard several times from legislators, oh, we know where the chamber's on that. Well, we want to hear from the individual businesses. How does it actually impact them? That has a lot more weight. So that said, a little plug for my committee. Thank you very much. What a great panel. Can we hear it for this panel? Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Yes.